good work does not speak for itself, and it never has. The year I did the best work of my career so far, I sat in a review meeting and was asked one very fair question. What impact has it had, and should it actually carry on? Now, I spent an entire summer building that specific thing, and it held up that entire year. And I sat there and said something maybe very vague about it going well, because I cannot retrieve a single specific detail about my own work. Okay, so here's what I want us to do today. And I promise to answer it before we are actually done in the office. So the question is, how does somebody build something for, say, 200 people and support it for 9 months and then have nothing to say for it in the one room where saying it actually counts? Hello and welcome to Breaking the Timeline. I'm Shana, and I became a senior lecturer by 28 by climbing the system instead of leaving it. And this is where we work through the actual how of getting promoted while we are still building something of our own. So what I want you to do today is go and grab a coffee and potentially something to write on. There are a few numbers today and one task at the end that takes about 90 seconds to set up. Right. I think it's about time we open the doors to our professional office hours together. So let's get started. All right, let's actually use this as a room. So I want you to come in, sit down. But before we actually get into the ins and gritty, we need to sort one thing out. There are two things that keep getting handed to us at work, and most of us have been treating them as if they are the same thing. Okay, so let's start somewhere we've all been. And I want you to imagine this. It's Friday, your manager catches you on the way past and says you've done a really good job this week. And that really lands. It feels lovely, especially early on when you don't know yet whether you are good at this. That was exactly what I needed in my first couple of years. Somebody telling me I was good at my work was the fuel. I wasn't after anything else. Now, 3 years in, it stopped being enough. A thank you on a Friday afternoon doesn't come with anything attached to it. And once you've been in it long enough, you start hearing that commitment for what it often is, which is the thing a manager is meant to say. So let me split this into two people. Most of us will spot ourselves in, say, one of them. Now, the first person does consistently strong work. People notice when they need to, they build a quiet reputation on effort and results. They don't talk about what they've contributed, and they are waiting for somebody to say, you are on track. That person gets praise and it is reliable. But what they struggle to get is anything tangible attached to it. Because when their supervisor sits down to write a paragraph about them, they are writing it from pure memory. If they can't picture anything specific, what they write is vague. And vague keeps you exactly where you are. Now, the second person works on the basis that nobody else is going to make the case for them. What they do is something generally hard. The people who make decisions hear what it was and what changed because of it. They can describe their own work out loud without flinching. Now, that's still praise, but it's praise with evidence underneath it, which is the version that turns into money or a title or whatever it was you actually wanted. Now, I want to be careful here because I'm not telling you the first person is naive. Usually, they are the harder worker. But what separates them is which of these two things, which I'm about to go through in a second. And most of us were only ever handed one. Now, I'll tell you what happened in that room in about 6 minutes. But before that, I want to prove to you it isn't just me because I spent a long time assuming it was. Now, I'm going to link today's article in the bio, but we are going to be focusing on a salary and recruiting trend which has recently been published, which is going to back up these claims. So this is Hayes, their 2026 UK salary and recruiting trends work, built on over 5,100 responses from UK professionals. Now, some stats kind of stood out for me. 48% of UK professionals feel there's limited scope for advancement in their current organisation, nearly half. And 62% are planning to move jobs in the coming year, which is up from 57% the year before. For ordinary yearly movement, the one that arrives whether or not you did anything remarkable is about 2%, which tells you something worth sitting with. Staying still has a price, and it paid slowly. Now, recognition is the common one. The thing that would actually help you move is the rare one. So if it's ever felt like you are collecting compliments and getting nowhere, that's the room you are standing in measured. Now, I'm in education, so my examples come from there. This travels though. In learning and development, whoever rebuilt the onboarding program. In project delivery, it's whoever spotted the dependencies that would have taken the deadline out. In any team at all, it's the person whose work only becomes visible when it stops. Same problem in all of them. So praise and promotion are two different things, and most workplaces hand out the first far more readily than the second. Which brings me to the part I've been putting off, because now I have to tell you about the year I learned that in a room. Now, I was given the chance to become a module leader this year. The job was to build a new portfolio for trainee teachers, somewhere they could evidence how they were meeting the professional standards. Now, when I was given this promotion, I had no budget, no new software, and I had only been in the role for just under 2 years. And this was my first proper leadership piece at that level. 3 things it had to do: be generally easy to add evidence to, be shareable with external providers, and be exclusive so somebody could show what they knew regardless of how they work best or what they were dealing with. So I went through everything we already had. I used Sway, OneNote, OneDrive, but none of it did all 3 things. Then I remembered we were already using a system called Padlet for something completely different, just pushing information out to our external providers. So I went and researched what makes a portfolio tool work. And I found a webinar from an American university using Padlet as a portfolio system. Different sector, different students, nearly identical mechanics. So I flagged that as a habit I lean on constantly. The answer was already in the building, being used for something else. And I only found it by watching how somebody in a different institution used the same tool. So then I built it all summer and the first half of September for about 200 trainees. And then I put the 3 layers of support around it. Tutorial videos embedded into each section so people could watch me do the task at any point in the year. An introductory lecture and a mid-year one with online and face-to-face drop-ins, and a half-day training session for staff members with open access to book time with me if they got stuck. That's the build. Now, the first sign of trouble came in corridor conversations, just checking in with people in passing about how they were getting on. And I started to get these mixed answers about the format and the expectations that didn't match what I thought I had made. So I went and looked at individual portfolios and I found the gap. My own group understood it, but others didn't. And the reason is obvious once you see it. The way I explain something I built myself is completely different from the way somebody who didn't build it explains it. I made a tool. The shared understanding around it was missing. So I put in troubleshooting meetings for anyone who needed support. That fixed the first problem, but it created the second one. 200 plus trainees, all with slightly different issues, and my subject lead role still running underneath it. I spent weeks giving the same answer over and over to different people. Then it was time for my own review. Understand what I walked in with. I'd built the thing. I supported the thing. I spent a summer on it and most of an academic year holding it up. And I was asked reasonably what impact it had on others, whether it should carry on. I couldn't answer. I said something about it going well, something about people using it. I could feel myself reaching for specifics and coming back with nothing. The names of the people it had helped, the things that it had actually changed, the numbers I definitely had at some point, all of it just gone. I spent the whole year firefighting. Every hour went into fixing what was broken, and none of it went into recording what was working. And this is the part that still gets me. As far as that room was concerned, the impact of my work was whatever I could describe in that moment, which was almost nothing. So I lost the argument for my own work in a room where I had every single fact and none of the words. So for a long time, I filed that under bad memory, and specifically my bad memory. So the system runs on somebody's recall, and it was never going to be yours. And there's a study from 2000 in the Journal of Applied Psychology by Scullin, Mount, and Goff, 2 samples, over 2,000 managers in each, all rated by multiple people. They found that individual raters on tendencies accounted for 62% and 53% of variance in the ratings. The person's actual performance accounted for 21% and 25%. Now, I'll be straight with you on this. It's 26 years old and it looked at developmental feedback rather than annual appraisals specifically. And I treat it as long established research. But what it means is that a performance rating tells you more about the person holding the pen than the person being written about. So put the two together. The conversation happens twice a year. The rating is largely a product whoever's doing the rating. And sitting in between those two facts is 9 months of your work, waiting to be remembered by somebody with 40 other people to think about. Leaving your case to be assembled out of somebody else's memory is a gamble, and the odds on it are very bad. So here's what I want you to do this week. One thing, open whatever you already check every single day. Work calendar, your phone, whatever it is, you can't avoid looking at it. And you're going to set one recurring weekly reminder. Same day, same time every week. That's the whole job. The reminder is the entire task. It has to live inside something you already open, because the record only works if there's a moment in your week where you actually meet it. Mine is at Friday at 7 p.m. in the evening, and it takes about 10 minutes. What I write in those 10 minutes in 3 lines, I walk through exactly what those 3 lines are, by the way, with examples that pass and the ones that fail in this week's newsletter. So make sure you subscribe so you don't miss out. Now, the prompts do nothing on their own, though. And this week we are building it in the moment that they live in, which answers the question I put on the table at the start. How does somebody build something for 200 people and have nothing to say for in 9 months later? Because building it and recording it are 2 separate jobs, and I only did one of them. I generally thought they were the same thing. Now, as mentioned, the full breakdown of those 3 lines, what makes one count and what makes one fall over, goes out in this week's Breaking the Timeline newsletter, and I will link that below for you to go. Now reply to it and tell me the piece of work you are proudest of that you couldn't describe out loud in a room right now. I read every single one, and I quite like to know I'm not the only person that this has happened to. So set your reminder before you forget. Now that's me closing the doors on office hours for this week. And I can't wait to see you again next week. Take care of yourselves and make sure you are doing those habits that compound over time so we can build the career and build the lives that we are proud for. See you soon.